If you have a house and you take somebody in because they have difficulties, they don't have anywhere else to go, you give them shelter, they occupy one room, or maybe the cottage because you are a nice person. Then very slowly the person starts complaining, saying that you don't run the house appropriately. The house is mayhem. Or you come very late at night and you make noise, and it's unacceptable. And this is absolutely crazy. What do? Do you listen to them? Do you kick them out? This is your house. Somebody comes and stays because they don't have anywhere else to go. And you accept them, okay? You say, you can come stay with me, no problem. But then you start complaining about the kitchen. You say it's too dirty and the soap that you're using is inappropriate. Nobody uses that soap anymore. Oh, by the way, the corridor is extremely dirty. Why don't you wipe? Why don't you clean after yourself? What do? Do you bear with him or do you kick him out? Okay, let's change it a little bit. Let's say the person pays rent at your house, okay? He occupies a room. In some places, people occupy rooms because they don't have the money to occupy a full house or maybe to rent a full house. So they rent a room or maybe a cottage. So they pay something. They contribute something. But then they make the same complaints saying the kitchen is dirty. This is unacceptable that you come back home late and make noise. It's unacceptable that you pray at 4 o'clock in the morning and they sleeping, and this is unacceptable. I know some of you pray very hard, make a lot of noise. God doesn't need that. He doesn't need you to scream for him. Anyway, let's get back on track. What do you do with this person? Do you bear with them and say, okay, they have right to say whatever? Or do you say, no, you know what? Get out of the place. Now, let's say the place don't say, okay, now I think I'm going to take you to court. So the court can allow me to have one portion of your house where you accepted me. Okay? I'm going to take one room where I'm occupying right now and I'm going to make it my private side. Because the bottom line is I'm paying the rent. And the court has to authorize me to stay here. How do you react about it? Interesting, right? Interesting to even think that somebody will come to your house and very slowly start thinking about how they can go to court so they can stay in your house because you're making noise and it's dirty, not good enough at its standard, and find the court order to kick you away from your own house so they can occupy. Well, this is not a dream, fellas. Something very interesting is happening. There is a man in the name of Craig Field, or Phil Craig, one of the two. The man lives in South Africa. He is originally from Britain. Phil Craig in South Africa is one of the people that guides a political party in the name of Cape Party. Cape Party is a political party that advocates for Cape independence. Phil Craig has been involved in promoting the vision of Cape independence. The movement believes that the Western Cape, which is one of the wealthiest provinces in South Africa, will thrive with independence from the other provinces. In simple English, my brother, so this guy comes from Britain. He has come to South Africa. Now he has acquired the South African citizenship. And now him and some other people, white people, have created a Cape Party. Now the Cape Party wants to cut itself off South Africa. They want to chop this province right here. It's called the Western Cape. The Western Cape is the wealthiest province in South Africa. So what makes the Western Cape so wealthy? Well, the Western Cape is a combination of tourism, agriculture, trade, financial services, and many more. It is the richest province in South Africa. If you've been to South Africa and you want to see a lot of white people, you're going to go to the Western Cape. If you want to see a lot of black people and all that stuff, it's probably going to be Gauteng or KwaZulu-Natal or one of these. Anyway, Western Cape is still the wealthiest province in South Africa. Now, Phil Craig wants to separate South Africa into two parties, which they're going to call the Cape Independence Movement. And what he's trying to do now is to go to the United States of America and have a discussion with Donald Trump on how they want to separate the country.
You've written to the president, Ronald Lamola, as well as the Western Cape Premier, to say what exactly?
In the first instance, just to inform them that we're intending to go to the United States and that we're going to lobby there for Cape independence. We've taken legal advice. We've always been an organisation that stayed within the bounds of the Constitution and is pushing for Cape independence democratically, peacefully, and legally. So we're about to go to the US, and the advice we received, and I thought it was sensible advice, is look, let's not do anything underhand. We'll put our cards on the table. We'll be very transparent in what we're doing, and we've written to those, the president, the premier, and the minister of DIRCO, and we've said, look, we believe we have the right to do this.
Okay, let's stop right there. Now, what he's saying is what? They want to go to the United States of America to have a discussion with Donald Trump on how Donald Trump could possibly help them chop this part of South Africa into becoming an independent country. Now, what he's saying is what? Before they go to America, the legal team has advised them to write officially to the President of the Republic and some other entities before they leave, so that it doesn't look like it's treason. Okay? So in other words, I'm going to announce in the most nicest way that we are going to the United States of America to have a discussion with Donald Trump so he can help us getting Cape independence, meaning the Western Cape, the richest, wealthiest province in South Africa, chopped off South Africa without giving you tools to take me to justice. Let's continue.
To do this, we intend to do this, but in the spirit of fair play, we're going to give you full notice, and we're inviting you to make any representation.
We intend to do this in the spirit of fair play. Nicely, we're going to chop your house into two, but in a fair play. Let's continue.
Representations, if you believe that we're not entitled to do this.
Okay, let's talk about this though, because this is intending to go to the White House and travel to Washington, D.C. to advocate for the cessation of the Western Cape?
Well, so to advocate for support for our campaign, for in the first instance, a referendum to be held in the Western Cape to test the democratic will of the Western Cape people. So we have to understand that the Western Cape people are not being governed according to their democratic will. They have a right to self-determination, both under the South African Constitution and in international law.
Okay, let's stop right there. So the Western Cape is not being governed the way they want to be governed. And under the South African law, they have rights to self-determination. So they can be their own people. Let me just remind you here, there's a town in South Africa, it's called Orania. Orania is exclusively white, Afrikaners. In order to enter Orania, you must be speaking Afrikaans, you must be white, you must be Christian, you must be so many other things. So there are no black person that lives in Orania. This is in South Africa. Okay? Afrikaner people have come together, they've put money together, they've created Orania. They have their own currency, they have their own schools, they have their own curriculum, they have their own everything. And they say Orania is one of the safest, if not the safest place in South Africa. Because let me remind you that South Africa is not the safest country in the world, especially Johannesburg, Cape Town, and Durban. Not at all. These are statistics. You can see it online. This guy wants the right to self-determination. So to have one part of South Africa chopped off South Africa so they can be independent. Now, it's interesting to say that he's chosen this specific time to go to America and meet Donald Trump. Why? Just a reminder, South Africa and the United States of America are not seeing eye to eye right now. You know that they pushed away the ambassador of South Africa back to South Africa because he made a comment about Donald Trump that Americans did not like. And Donald Trump a few weeks ago stopped the aid that America was sending to South Africa because they accused South Africa of mistreating white people. What a better time for somebody like him to go to the United States of America and ask for support against South Africa at a very fragile, very sensitive time where South Africa is going through the most against the United States of America. Very interesting, isn't it? Now, who is this man? Let's have a look at it. Phil Craig. So Phil Craig, as the information we have, was born in the UK. He moved to South Africa in 2007. So he's been in the country for about 20 years. We've heard a lot of people say that he's South African. He's got the passport of South Africa. And that's the reason why he can speak like this. Because all of a sudden, you were accepted in the country because you wanted to move in. You were permanent residents. And all of a sudden, now you want to chop the country because you don't like the way things are being run. So basically what you're saying is, Western Cape, where the most white people live, is better than any other place in South Africa. Let's chop it away. I mean, it's a very clean way of saying, let's keep the whites away from the blacks because they can't do anything. Now, many people say this guy is South African, but there's an interesting take from the presidency saying that he's not. Listen to this.
Okay. Hello, Phil Craig is not a citizen of South Africa. He's still a permanent resident and he is yet to be naturalized. So he's not a citizen of South Africa. And to your point, indeed, it is a concern that somebody who's left his own country of birth has come to South Africa to sow seeds of division, as he has been doing. But on the other hand, you will recall that they tried to register for these last general elections, and they couldn't obtain enough signatures. So they do have very limited representativity, What is of concern to us is the sort of perpetuation of distortions about our country. So whoever that will welcome him in the United States will need to know that he's not a South African citizen. He is a permanent resident.
Oh, so he's a permanent resident. Interesting. We didn't see that. So in South Africa, like many other places, you have to first be permanent resident before you become citizen. And many people are asking questions. Why isn't the government taking away his permanent residency? Why isn't the government punishing this person and sending him back to his country? Well, you must remember here, South Africa is in a position that is very critical. They don't want to make any moves that's going to look to America like a confirmation of accusations that have been placed on their shoulders. So they don't want to do anything that looks like black people reverse racism against white people. Sending this man back to his country of birth will be a big tool to confirm that theory. That's not necessarily correct. Now, what can be done? Can somebody with a permanent residence lose their residency? It's a possibility. There are many rules to that. If you're permanent resident and you commit a criminal offense that is big, like against national security or any other thing, like espionage, they could take your permanent residency against you. If you commit anything that's big as fraud, such as lying about your identity or your origin or anything like that, so papers, they could take your permanent residence away. If a permanent resident is found to be engaging in activities that compromise national security, their residency may be revoked. This includes involvement in terrorism, espionage, and similar activities that pose a threat to South Africa. Now, does Cape Independence pose a threat to South Africa? Well, it's very hard to say because apparently the South African law opens a window to autodetermination. So a group of people can choose to be autodetermined, like Orania. So it's very interesting and very slippery. Now, let me know how you feel about this. This is very, very interesting. The man speaking on behalf of the presidency also mentioned Joel Pollock, the proposed US ambassador to South Africa, who so far has not been very much liked by the EFF.
Joe Pollock, yes, we've observed with concern that a person that is seeking to represent the United States in South Africa has also engaged in a series of damaging behavior against South Africa. We will wait to see if he gets nominated, if indeed he gets appointed, and we will take things from there. But it is a concern that he seeks to represent the United States here. We're not quite sure what his intentions will be, because so far he is engaged in a very divisive and very damaging manner towards South Africa and towards South Africa-related issues.
So what's interesting right now is South Africa is clearly going through fire. There's a lot of group of people, the AfriForum, which are Afrikaners, white people that went to the United States to lobby for their group, saying that South Africa is mistreating white people. There was another group of people from Orania that went to the United States to lobby for their cause. And right now, the United States of America is run by Republicans. And Republicans have a view that is not necessarily South Africa-like. Let me know how you feel about this, fellas. It's always a great pleasure. The good thing is the South African government is playing very mature with President Cyril Ramaphosa. God bless. Do you think this man should be kicked out? Or do you think they should just watch him and be mature? Should you be mature in every situation? If somebody comes into your home and clearly start to do things that you deem as destroying your home. He came renting because he had no space and maybe not enough money to rent a full house. You gave him a bedroom. And well, now he pays some electricity sometimes. But now he says he want to take you to court so the court can give him access to that room independently without you, even though this belongs to you. Let me know how you feel about this. God bless.